Hello, today I'd like to share my point of view on why exactly it doesn't matter within today's dominance hierarchies to be a nice person, to not to lie, to be a sound man, to be somebody to depend on. Why those things are completely irrelevant. Now, I suppose a nice way to start this would be to assume that as a child, you have been promised a world where nobody really lies and everybody, at least in some way, at their core, they are a decent person. However, not only I have found, at least for my purposes, to affirm that this is not only untrue, but it's completely irrelevant. Basically, social structures, as they are selected based on likings, based on likability. They have nothing to do with how you act. If you're somebody that they don't like, if you're somebody of whom the major people within the social group don't approve, then you're fucked. Then you have nothing really to offer. Basically, if you are nice to everybody around you, it doesn't matter. If you're popular, you can afford to do anything, but if you're not popular, you can be the best person in the world, and it still will never make any difference. And today, I'd like to share my opinion as to why exactly this is. So, firstly, I believe that there are certain ways how to attain power. By power, I mean being an important person within a group whose voice counts. If your voice counts, you have an elective power to decide who is and who is not allowed to join the group. Now, I would say that people are, at core at least, very, very, very superficial and selfish. And I mean, I think everybody is like this, in a way. And if anybody wants their approval, they have to appeal to the very base instincts that the other person have. And those I have concluded to be, this is not scientific, this is my opinion, looks, charisma, and empathy. 3 things, of which you only need one in order to convince the other person that you're worthy of their approval. Looks, clear. Looks is visual. If somebody sees another person together with a good-looking person, if they are superficial enough, they'll assume that this group has value. Now, if somebody wants to befriend somebody only for their looks, then basically they are very superficial, and it's something which is completely independent of anybody's characteristic traits. Now, if we have charisma, that's more manipulatory. It's sort of somebody has a very nice way of telling a story. That doesn't mean they're a nice person, it doesn't mean they are clever, it doesn't mean that they're making any sense. But they have this aura. They have a way to put the listener at ease, to basically put up a good show. I suppose, like we have in Greek mythology, the island where the creatures would be able to sing so beautifully that everybody would lose their mind and would just drive onto their island, and they would kill them. It's exactly the same thing. It's basically something very beautiful which appeals to people. I call it charisma. I don't think I'm very off in using this term. Now, we have looks, charisma, and empathy. Empathy is rather rare, I would say, but it's basically something that allows the person in question to understand how the person ticks very quickly. They take 1 or 2 looks at them, and they know immediately what they want to hear. So basically, for a person with this gift, it's easy to read a person like a book, and then they basically think, okay, this person probably wants to hear this. They're insecure about that. They are anxious to find out about this. They're interested to do this. They are interested in telling their story, something of the sort. Now, if you are empathetic, then you can just give the person whatever they want, and even though this might not be very convenient for you, because you might get sucked into it, it still is something that is valued by the other person, because as far as they're concerned, they found a new great friend with whom they could discuss anything, because that person is a perfect mirror. Now, those are the three qualities which I would say have nothing to do with your character. It's something of something which is directly connected to your body, something which with which you were born, something which people say or see value in. Now, if you have one of those qualities, it's possible to get people around you. If you succeed in getting two people, not one but two, then you can form a group. Because as one person told me once, which I don't think is too crazy an idea, that if you have a single person who tries to make a difference, that is to tell other people what to do, or, well, sort of try to start a group of their own, if they're alone, then they could be potentially labeled as insane if they disagree with another person. If there's two of them, the chance of them being crazy is lesser, but they still could be two outsiders. But there's a magical thing about number 3 here, that if there are 3, there should be a psychological effect on others, thinking that even if you have 3 crazy people together, only on the strength of them being of 3, they already have some credibility, because the chances of them all being crazy are rather low. At least that's how it's estimated in as per the source which told me this. Now, I would say that if somebody succeeds in starting to build their group, then the henchmen there's a king and there are henchmen. There's one main person who's an utter psychopath who doesn't care about anybody else's opinion, but because of one of those qualities, they receive admiration from some people who would then unwaveringly support them when in conflict. You know, you have a group of 3 people, for example, and there's another person, there's an argument, and these people, just because this person has charisma, has looks, or is empathetic, they would automatically support him. They would never ask the question, why exactly are you arguing? Why are you fighting? What's wrong here? Let's analyze this. No. They would just unwaveringly support this guy. And this, I would say, explains why it doesn't matter for anybody to have any personality or character. Because if you have a group like this, you have the king, the main guy, the psychopath, and the henchmen, basically unwavering supporters, then they have strength of numbers. Only because they are many, then they could steamroll over other people. Then other people notice this, and they just join the group, and they're happy that the king isn't attacking them and that the henchmen aren't supporting them. And maybe just because they have a group, they might also do stuff together. That's another thing. Groups. It's a very uncomfortable thing, I would say, but basically there's strength in numbers. If you have a group of 10, it's better than have a group of 3. Why? Because you have more people, they have more friends, they have more connections. It's only about pure numbers. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad people. Basically, as long as you're within a group, within a big group, that means other groups, then you can benefit from this. This could be relationships, this could be for your entire life. You could completely live and base your life onto this. And it's dangerous to miss on this opportunity, because then other people who are members of the structure, then they will have economic benefits over you. If somebody just offers somebody a deal under the table, or they know somebody who's hiring, there are endless numbers of benefits which one might reap from being a member of a group. Now, within the group, the king decides who comes and who leaves. And that's the problem with groups, because if there's a king who doesn't like you, you're never coming in. Because they basically have some charisma, they have, and I would like to say also that in this assumption, money and power doesn't really play a role. It's a major factor in real world, because people, just by the virtue of having money or having a company or having something of value, will immediately attract a great number of fake people who would just be friends with anybody only to get some material gain. I'm not talking about this. I'm only interested in how actually it works at human core, which could then explain why people would honestly prefer to talk to one person and not to another. Now, within the group, I would say you have the king, you have the henchmen, and then you have the people who are just strolling along with the group because they want the said benefits as before. You know, they know it's a group and they know if they're part of a group, then as such they will meet new people, get more opportunities, whatever. But for that, in order to qualify, they have to get along with the king. And this happens only if the king likes them. And basically, that is not anyhow relevant to if the person is a nice person, is a decent person, if they don't lie or whatever. No, the king decides everything. And I would say that the king has to be a complete psychopath to maintain this position, because it's completely inhuman to do things like this, to say, oh, I'm not going to go there if that guy's going, or I'm not going to invite you to my apartment if you are not going to agree with my terms here. Those are not verbalized things, or maybe they are in some crappier societies, but it's understood, it's subconscious. And on this note, I think I'd rather end this video, and would also say that there may be people who base their value on one of those major main core qualities: charisma, looks, or empathy. However, there's a problem attached to this. If there's another person offering better looks or better charisma or better empathy, then they have a problem, because it's competition, and those henchmen then could sort of switch sides. They don't want that. So, as it's known, all psychopaths hate other psychopaths. It's not like they're best friends. Oh yeah, I'm really fucked up, then you are too, so we'll get along. Not really. A psychopath has a problem with everybody, has all kinds of crazy opinions, and basically they need subordinate and people who don't really stand in their way. Now, there's a problem for them. So on this basis, if there's any competition, they obviously dislike them. So if you're really nice, if you're good, it doesn't really matter, because the major core of the group won't really accept you. So what's the problem, really? You don't really want to be friends with those psychopaths, but you just want the normal people from the group. However, they do respect the natural order of things within the group. So basically they notice that if you don't get along with the king, then they might be kicked out of the group. So they prefer not to have anything to do with you. Now, that's exactly why it doesn't matter to be a nice person, because all it really takes is to be liked by the king, and as such, doesn't matter if you have caveman mentality. As long as you're in, then you're in. And then whatever you offer, whatever crappy jokes you have to offer, it will somehow translate and people will make it work. Now, I think that's about everything to the topic I have to say. And I think it encompasses my entire view. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.